the compliments first. This is the best Slowdive record in the entire catalog, which that doesn't happen. That's so inhuman for that to happen. For a band to pull that off. I mean, most bands always feel like their latest record is their best, but do you all get a sense of where this lies for you?
I don't know. I mean, I think my 6-year-old thinks it's the best. She insists on having it played on her little iPod with a little dock she has on in her room, and it just goes on all night. She doesn't like Falling Ashes. She thinks that's boring, but the rest of it she really likes. And before that, her favourite song was Catch the Breeze, and everything else that we've ever done is boring. So it's got the vote of confidence from a 6-year-old. I mean, I think we were a little bit anxious about releasing it, because obviously it was the first thing that we'd done for such a long time. We were really confident in that we thought the record was good, but we didn't really know how it would be received. We didn't know whether people would think it was too similar to what we'd recorded previously, or maybe not, or maybe not similar enough. So it was a little bit like, it was going back to the days of when we released the Catch the Breeze EP, which we called Holding Our Breath, and we called it Holding Our Breath because we were literally holding our breath, waiting for everyone to turn against us, and that's what ended up happening. So it was a little bit like that. I mean, I think that some of our strongest songs are on this new record. Whether it's the best, I think maybe we need to live with it a little bit longer before we can make that call.
Well, I'll make the call for myself only personally then.
Thank you. Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, you sort of running with the joke of your daughter there. This is the introduction to some fans, though. This will be their first time hearing it, which has got to feel special in some sort of way.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite noticeable in some of the shows that we're playing that the new songs are being received better by the crowd than the old songs, and that's something that obviously we kind of hoped would be the case, because we don't want to be seen as a band that just plays like the golden oldies from 25 years ago. But we were a little bit concerned that we would come out and we'd play the new songs and people would be like, oh, just play the old stuff. No disrespect to bands like the Pixies, but when I've been to see the Pixies, since they've kind of had new music out, in the last couple of years, I've wanted to hear Surfer Rosa and Doolittle. I haven't been that bothered about what about the newer songs, and we didn't really want to be like that. And yeah, I think we've noticed a lot of the audience is far too young to have been around when we were playing in the early 90s. And when Neil plays the first chords to Sugar for the Pill, for instance, people, you can sense the crowd are like, yeah, Sugar for the Pill, which is brilliant, because it sort of puts us as a current band and not just like a legacy act, which is what we never wanted to just be a legacy act. So.
Yeah, I know that's something that a lot of bands have to fight for. I mean, bands that have only been around for even 10 years themselves, it's always that new song where the audience kind of tunes out, and for you guys to be able to get past that, that's great.
Yeah, and we would play more of the new record. I mean, we physically can play all of it, but we do feel that when we're playing, especially these festival sets we're playing. Obviously, we're at FYF this week, and festival set, you feel you can't just hit the crowd with like an hour of new music, because that's not really fair on people who are who maybe have not really caught up with the new record, but maybe are familiar with us from 1993 or something and want to hear stuff from Souvlaki. So you have to mix it up a little bit. Yeah. But we're looking forward when we come back to the US in the fall. We're looking forward to playing a lot more of the new record, and sort of really kind of breaking out a little bit from the old songs maybe.
Were you guys conscious of the reputation and the mythology that built in your absence? Did you all feel any of that while it was happening?
Not really, no. I mean, people would talk to us about it before we reformed. People would talk to Neil, especially. Obviously, Neil Halstead was continued to play live and to write his own music, and he played with Black Hearted Brother and toured solo, and people would always talk to him about Slowdive and about, hey man, you've got to get Slowdive back together, and there's all these people out there that want to see you, and you're bigger now than you ever were. But we didn't really believe it, and really the first time we realized was when we put the tickets on sale for our first show at the Village Underground in London, and we were worried that we wouldn't sell 800 tickets, and they sold out in like a minute and a half or something. And it was only at that point that we were like, wow, it took us 3 months to sell 800 tickets in 1994. And here they are selling in 90 seconds. And then Primavera, obviously with 15,000 people watching us, and we're going on stage before the Pixies. There they are again. But like one of our favorite bands of all time, we go on stage at the other end of that huge arena at Primavera in Barcelona just before the Pixies, in front of 15,000 people. So people told us about it, but we didn't appreciate it until we actually saw it with our own eyes. And we still find it difficult to believe, to be honest, that there is still that much interest in the band.
Well, I mean, in you're 3 years in, technically, on this reunion at this point, right? So on chapter 2, I should say. I like that better. And when a band starts and you're young, it's always kind of likened to a gang. It's you all against the world. But is it different nowadays? Is it possible for you all in the chapter 2 version to become a gang again, or do you feel that it's a wholly different thing this time around?
I think we are still the same gang. It is a bit weird because, it was complicated in Slowdive in the 90s. It's very well documented about the relationship between Neil and Rachel, which broke down, which led to the Souvlaki record. And there were never real big problems in the band. But, we were a gang when we started, but things did start to fragment, which led to the band eventually breaking up. We lost Simon, who decided to leave and do other things. And since we've got back together, we're obviously a lot older and we've had families, we've got different perspectives on life now, and we do genuinely get on extremely well. We have a lot of fun playing together and traveling together. And I would say we're perhaps more of a gang now than we were before. We go out to dinner together. We go out with the crew. We're not one of these bands that kind of separates ourselves away from the crew. We just have a really great time because I suppose we think there are thousands and thousands of bands out there who are, potentially more worthy of the small success that we've had than we are. And here we are having a second bite at the cherry. So really for us, it's about having as much fun as possible and enjoying it and just living in the moment and enjoying our friendship again, which sounds corny, but that's
very positive.
Yeah, I mean, we love it. Our crew is a really tight-knit bunch as well. It's the same crew pretty much that we put together in 2014, and we're all good mates now. We all travel together, we all hang out together. So it is a bit like, I don't know whether you have it in the States, but in Britain, when you're in high school, you go out on these school trips. Mm-hmm. You might go away for 3 or 4 days to some awful youth hostel out in some rainy part of England where you're supposed to be studying history or geography or something, and it kind of feels like that. You're all kind of traveling together on a bus and taking the mick out of each other, and everybody's kind of inner child comes out. But we enjoy it, and if we didn't enjoy it, we probably wouldn't do it because we don't need to do it, really. I mean, it's not like something we can make a fortune out of. We do it because we enjoy it, and and when that stops, I guess we will stop.
Back on this record, because I do want to talk about that. You guys get back together, so you've done the shows and you're heading in the studio. Was there a song or a moment when you realized that it is going to work, that this is clicking again?
I think probably a couple of moments. I mean, it sounds a bit obvious maybe because they're the two singles, so to speak, Star Roving and Sugar for the Pill. Sugar for the Pill was actually recorded first, but I think it didn't really come together as a song until quite late on. But we kind of knew when we were recording that was that we had something good there, and we had a number of different ideas floating around, which really we couldn't really pull together. We'd become so used to being a live band again, we'd almost forgotten how to go and record. And things were sort of meandering, and it took a while. And then suddenly Star Roving came together quite separately from an idea that Neil had, which was really different. It was like a krautrock cover. It sounded like a Can track or something. And it was good, but we were all like, this sounds too much like we're just copying Can. And I came up with a different bass line for it, which kind of, made it maybe a bit funkier almost. And we sort of mixed in some electronic drums with some live drums. and Neil came up with this monstrous Moog keyboard part, which took the part of some of the bass. And, it was like, it's like, wow, this is like Slowdive's take on Teenage Riot or something. And we were all like, this is great. And from that point on, everything else seemed to come together. So I think we can probably credit Star Roving with pulling the album together. That was the moment where we were like, right, no, we can do something good.
And I know the idea is always to sort of build a mood, in Slowdive, in sort of the genre that you're lumped in with. It's sometimes even more about the mood than other parts. And I don't know, is there a mood that you go for this time around? Is it just, you kind of take the song as it is and build it up, or were you guys trying, because it's an album and it's such a cohesive sound for an album, again, which is notable for having been gone so long and for that to be the case.
I don't think we really do. I think we're definitely one of those bands that just lets the process take itself off into whatever direction. I think when we started putting the record together, I think we all thought, without really admitting to each other, I think we all thought we'd end up with the successor to Pygmalion. We thought that what we were going to end up with would be something quite experimental and a little bit out there, and that people would be, probably some very artsy people would be all over it, but maybe, the people that jump around to When the Sun Hits and Catch the Breeze and Allison would maybe feel a little bit kind of sort of left out of it a bit. But that's not how it turned out. So I think although the intention was there maybe to write something quite experimental, I think the fact that we've been playing as a live band for 3 years really influenced the recording and the writing process much more than we thought it would. And we ended up with something which, we all kind of think is more, if it's a successor to anything, it's a successor to Souvlaki rather than Pygmalion. So, we let things kind of take whatever direction, they're going to take rather than aim for a particular mood. But having said that, moving on from the new record now, I think what we're keen to do to follow that is to maybe explore more of the Pygmalion textures that we perhaps neglected on this record. So I think maybe going forward we might end up with something which is more of a conscious decision to be slightly more experimental. But, we'll see. Maybe we'll go back in and we'll end up like making a record that sounds like the Foo Fighters or something.
Well, it's part of the most exciting things that you've said right there, not counting the Foo Fighters. Although whatever, as long as you guys are writing music, I'll be happy. But just knowing that you're already thinking ahead and, it's not just a one stop here, that's great news.
Yeah, definitely. We always right from the start, we always have said that we want to look forward, and we love playing the old songs, and we love, making people happy who want to hear those songs again, or maybe for the first time. But we don't want to just be kind of coming back every year and playing the same places and playing the same set. That's not what we're about.
Well, I love this record. It's one of my favorites of the year, and I'll go ahead and start looking forward to the next record as well. So,
great.
Nick, it was really great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Great stuff.
All right, man. Take care.
Thanks, Kyle.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.